Thank you, Jane. We now move to the announcement of our first award of the night, the RIBA Annie Spink Award for Excellence in Architectural Education. In 1974, the RIBA established the Annie Spink Trust Fund after a bequest by architect Herbert Spink in memory of his late wife Annie, and conceived as an honour for the advancement of architectural education. Since it was first awarded in 2000, the biennial Annie Spink Award has recognised the outstanding contribution to architectural education made by an individual in a school of architecture anywhere in the world that offers courses validated by the RIBA. Over the years, the award has attracted an impressive list of nominees, whose remarkable careers made them all deserving of this prize. 2016 was absolutely no exception, with the judges tasked with the decision to select a winner from amongst a number of outstanding nominees. This year's panel, chaired by RIBA Head of Education Projects John Paul Nunes, included Alan Jones, RIBA Vice President Education and Director of Education for Architecture at Queen's University Belfast, Zeno Bogdanescu, Professor of Architecture at the Ion Mincu University of Architecture and Urbanism, Bucharest, Romania, Susanna Hagen, Professor of Architecture at the University of Westminster and Director of RED, Research into Environment and Design, Baz Makaki, RIBA Bronze Medalist 2011, founding partner of Studio Bound, and Director and Tutor of the Architectural Association Visiting School in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and Alan Penn, Professor in Architectural and Urban Computing, Dean of the Bartlett Faculty of the Built Environment, UCL. The judges were unanimous in their decision that the 2016 RIBA Annie Spink Award would go to Professor Christine Hawley. Christine completed her Architectural Association diploma in 1975. During her studies, she worked for the Department of Environment and with practices such as Renton, Howard Wood and Levin, the Louis de Soissons Partnership, and York Rosenberg and Mardell, YRM. In 1975, she became a partner in Cook and Hawley Architects, and in 1978, registered as a British architect and practiced with Pearson International. In 1998, she established Christine Hawley Architects. Her academic career is long and distinguished. Since 1979, she's taught at numerous architectural schools in the UK and abroad, and held visiting professorships in 24 institutions across Europe, Asia, Australia, and the USA. She has lectured extensively and participated in over 100 international exhibitions and contributed to over 150 publications. From 1979 to 1987, she taught at the Architectural Association in London, and from 1987 to 1993, she was head of the School of Architecture at the University of East London. In 1993, she became Professor of Architectural Studies at the Bartlett School of Architecture, and in 1999 was made Dean of the Faculty of the Built Environment and Head of School at the Bartlett. Since 2015, Christine has held the title of Professor of Architectural Design. She has been advisor for professorial appointments in 15 universities across the world and contributed to over 50 committees that advised universities, charitable foundations, and governments in the UK and abroad. Christine is a committed teacher, academic leader, and designer, and is exceptional in that her career has embraced a uniquely broad range of experience, which has made her, above all, an inspirational educator for generations of architects and academics. Tonight, Christine receives not only the Annie Spink Trophy, but also a bound volume containing the 100 letters of citation from past and current employers, work colleagues, students and graduates that formed her nomination, a truly emotive testament to how her intellect, hard work, determination, and inspiring leadership have enriched the global landscape of architectural education. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating the winner of this year's RIBA Annie Spink Award for Excellence in Architectural Education, Professor Christine Hawley.
First of all, I'd just like to say how incredibly flattered I am to have been nominated for this award. I mean, this award has been won by some absolutely extraordinary people, and I just feel absolutely honoured to be part of that group. I'd also like to say that my family have told me that I mustn't do an Oscar thank you speech, so that, you know, you're there standing thanking every single person you've ever worked with, including the dog. So I'm not going to do that. But what I have done, once I was told I was going to receive this award, is that I reflected, I think, a lot more carefully on the people that I worked with. Not just the people that I taught, but also the people I taught with, the people that I've taught alongside, and actually the people, most importantly, who helped me run 2 schools of architecture and also the faculty. My career path has not been smooth. It has not been sort of a gilded career path at all. I started out as a student at the AA, having been taught by Peter Cook and Ron Heron. And I think rather prematurely, I was invited back to teach. And on the first day, I was waiting for the first student to turn up, and nobody turned up at all. And I waited and waited, and eventually one brave soul, the wonderful late Catherine Finlay, turned up, and she was the first, and I have to say, the only student that I taught during that year. So for all of you hard-pressed tutors sitting in studios with tons and tons of people queuing up, just think of the luxury that I had, one student in 1 year. To say that I taught her, I think, is a bit of an exaggeration. We just had a really good time talking about architecture and me marvelling at her amazing drawings. But that was my start. Like a lot of young people, I then did a second job, which was teaching at East London. And I found myself, and I won't go into the details why, I found myself in an interview eventually, an interview for being the head of the school. And after I'd done the interview, the chairman of the board of governors turned round and said to me, I'm terribly sorry, Christine, but we're not going to offer you the job. We're not offering it to you because you're a woman, and you can't command the respect and the authority that we need in a head of department. And that was that. And so I walked out the door, and the rector, who I have to take my hat off to, organised another interview the following day. Well, I say interview in inverted commas. And I walked in, and he said how sorry he was and how embarrassed, and I got the job. So that was my first headship. It was quite extraordinary. Going to work at East London was absolutely fantastic, and I will tell you why. It was one of 2 schools that had actually been deregistered by the RIBA because they were so bad. It was, I have to say, not a job where there was a stampede of people trying to line up to be the head of one of 2 schools, and I'm not going to name the other one of 2 schools that had actually lost its RIBA status. But I have to say, it was fantastic. It was like the Wild West. It was, you could do absolutely anything and everything. And I hadn't got a clue how to run a school of architecture, but I just sort of carried on through instinct. It was an amazing learning curve, but I actually managed to gather around me some extraordinary people, really extraordinary people, and they in turn actually attracted some extraordinary students. And I think the rest is history, because it then went on to win the bronze and the silver medal and so on. So for me, that was a terribly important part of my life. I then went on into a very different sort of environment, the Bartlett, into UCL, much more formalised, where the protocols had been long established over centuries. And suddenly I found myself having to be a grown-up in committee meetings, and endless committee meetings, actually. But I was there with an old colleague, Peter Cook, and together we also managed to gather around us some extraordinarily invigorating people, people with fresh ideas, people that were ready to push the boundaries, people that challenged actually the status quo. And it was quite a roller coaster, I have to say. I mean, it really was quite extraordinary. Again, you know, I absolutely loved it. But I then went on to be the dean of the faculty and then plunged into what was called the research assessment exercise. And I didn't really know very much about that either. And so the thing is that I actually felt the people around me really probably ought to have taken far more credit than they did. So having been head of 2 schools and also the dean of a faculty, I think I'm probably in a situation where I can observe how tremendously important it is that everybody is recognised and supported, and that actually to make a good school of architecture is an enormous collaborative effort. It is not the effort of one single person at all. There's just one last thing I'd like to say, and it's something that I very, very rarely talk about, and it's actually because I'm the first woman to receive the Annie Spink Award. And I'd like to say that all of the opportunities that are out there that are offered by the architectural profession, whether it's for academia or whether it's for practice, should be equally available to both men and women, and that is terribly, terribly important. And thank you so much for coming to support me in getting this fantastic award. Thank you very much indeed.